Three, two, one. Hello, 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 lovely people. This is another podcast which I am only allowed to make because my fantastic girlfriend is taking care of our baby, and I chose, instead of showering or sleeping or doing my tax declaration, to record. It's me, your friend, the lovely voice in your ears. It's Hermes, and this podcast, Yet Another Expat, where I bring thoughts, stories, and news from around the world and Berlin. Now, don't you love some innovative shop names? Berlin has quite a few of them. One of the things I like to do is read around, read the signs. The first one that caught my eye is City Chicken, and that is indeed City Chicken. It really reminds me of a South Park episode where there is a city walk. And listen, I'm not the best with pronunciations, but I think a lot of people are not. And if you are to name your shop a City Chicken, it better not be a shitty chicken. And also, why do you want a chicken from the city? Even if you say it correctly, like a city chicken, what is that supposed to mean? I would love a dwarf chicken. I would love a village chicken and a countryside chicken. Don't give me a city chicken or a city chicken. In any case, this is a very big store in Berlin. So big, I think they have multiple in the corners of Sonnenallee. I've never eaten in city chicken, but if I do, I'll let you know. But another store I found is a place where they repair phones, and the name of that one is Next Phone. I don't know if you get that they are repairing phones, and the name is Next Phone. And I have to say, hey, have a bit of faith, brother. I know you're not always good at repairing the phones. I've heard horror stories of screens being broken, of data being lost, but you are a repair phone store. Don't just name it Next Phone. Try a little bit more. And I know that these shops also do a bunch of other things. I actually feel they do a lot of different things if you know the right passwords, if you say the right keyword, but I haven't unlocked that. And yes, they also do sell some phones, but they are a repair service. Naming it Next Phone kind of defeats the purpose. It's like I'm opening a souvlaki place and I just call it diarrhea, or you open an electric shop and you call it thunderstruck. And I know they're not always good at repairing the phones, but can you please have some more confidence? Next Phone. Seriously? It's like I'm opening a medical center and calling it the graveyard. That's it with the shops. I don't know what you've seen. What are your favorite titles in Greece? Naming especially the coffee places and the souvlaki places, because these are the two types of stores that Greek entrepreneurs seem to love to try out. One more souvlaki place, one more coffee place. The imagination and creativity in the names reaches a kitsch level that is very difficult to describe in English. Send me your favorite names of shops and I'll make sure to make a mention in the next episode. Now, we're still in the intro. One more shop that I found quite mysterious and I want to share. It's one that has perfumes and it's located in the center of a shopping arcade. And I always find it so weird. It looks almost like a kiosk and it's full of perfumes and they are all in the same golden type of vessels. All bottles are no label. There's someone standing in there. It doesn't look like, it looks more like a spete than a boutique. Like it's nicely set up, but that's basically it. It doesn't look like a proper store or anything, but so many perfumes around. And I thought, okay, who would just buy a random perfume that has no label, that a person is literally playing with chemistry behind a booth making? And I had that question for a few months in my mind until I saw something that unlocked this mystery for me. And what I saw was a woman who had a perfume in her hand. She had brought a perfume, a very expensive one, I suppose, to this person, and he smelled it. And then he started thinking about it. And then I saw him live. I saw his head decomposing the notes. He started looking around in his little lab and grabbing a few bits and pieces, and he started reconstructing that perfume out of nothing. I was mesmerized. It was like a scene from the aroma, the perfume, the book, or the movie. If you've seen it, I saw this exceptional mind reconstruct a super expensive perfume out of thin air and put it in one of these gold vessels that he's selling. So this is what they're doing. And now it makes much more sense. He's like a hacker of scent. He's like a decoder. He's a reverse engineer of perfumes, sitting there with his booth, having all the raw materials to somehow synthesize for a very low price the perfumes and the scents for anyone interested. Now, I got very intrigued. I do have a perfume, a Corres Mount Pepper that I really like. I think it's discontinued, so I might go and give that a try. Now, two more things as we are entering this podcast. A funny one, I uploaded an episode called episode 40, I Got Into Berghain, where I shared the story of how I made it into Berghain. And that episode kind of exploded, like it spiked a lot in the data. A lot of people were checking it out. I assumed it was because of Berghain until I saw some comments on YouTube, because this podcast also goes on YouTube. And someone said, "Oh, I was so bummed out. I thought E40 was making a song." And guess what? I always name the episodes E from episode and then the number. And the episode I got into Berghain was episode number 40. So E40, I got into Berghain. Now, it turns out there is some famous rapper called E40. So apparently everyone thought that E40 dropped the new latest hit, I Got Into Berghain. I can't imagine how a rap would be that is talking about Berghain, but I got a lot of disappointed fans of E40 who thought that I Got Into Berghain was his new song. Now, sorry for those people, but here we are. Now, if you think that this podcast is not getting recognition, that only people out of chance and randomly thinking we are something we're not find this podcast, I have a last thing to say. I was asked to join an interview around the podcast from RBB in Germany. There is a show called Cosmos στα Ελληνικά. It's produced by Cosmo, which is part of the German Public Broadcasting Network. It's also supported by RB in terms of the production, and it's a podcast that covers interviews and reports on political, social, cultural topics, primarily in Greek, and it's catering to Greek-speaking audiences in Germany. So maybe after speaking in this podcast, a few more people are going to join this wonderful community we have where I get to speak and you very, very graciously tolerate that in your ears. I'll try to be civil and well-informed and have a nice conversation. I'm very glad that I got to get this invitation. So let's see how that goes. And okay, this was a long intro. Let's start this podcast. In this first chapter that I will name Life as a New Dad, I will bring a few updates about how that side of things is going. The baby is now 10 days old, new milestone achieved. I feel like it's almost like an Xbox game where I get to cross new achievements, and one of them includes unlocking new baby grips. So, when you start, you don't know how to hold the thing. You're like, oh my God, this will snap. It will die in my arms. I need to protect it. And then slowly but surely, more grips are being introduced and available. As long as you support a bit the head and the back, you can get more creative. We also have a midwife that shows all these different tricks. So now I can hold the baby upside down and have it rest on the side of my hand and all these new moves. It feels pretty good. It's also a great workout. It weighs about 3.5 kilos, so that is quite a good weight to carry around. And Instagram is bombarding me with baby stuff. I'm trying to resist. One that is quite interesting, and you might have heard, is the concept of white noise. So white noise is an insane hack. It's a type of noise that sounds like static. And for those who are too young to know, static is when you had an old radio or a TV that couldn't get the frequency of the signal and you would just hear the parasites. But this is white noise, and kids, babies love it because they don't like silence. They're a bit like us. They need something going on. Silence is too much. Maybe the weight of existence itself, the sensory input they're getting from light and skin and eyes and all of that thing is too much. So silence is uncomfortable. What can they do? They can only cry. No one wants to hear that. So white noise actually simulates a bit the sounds in the womb when they are inside the belly. And there are white noises that even have a kind of a heartbeat, and that just sends the baby in a trance. What happens medically is that it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps the rest and digest function and away from the fight or flight function. But in common words, it just makes the baby chill. Not only the baby, it also works on me, my girlfriend, and we try not to do it too much because then if you get used to using white noise to calm down the baby, it will always need white noise. Our goal is to make my snoring be the white noise, the one of comfort and the one that says things are going well. And as someone who couldn't sleep for some years and I tried different things in the past, white noise was one of them. Got a bit annoying after some point. Then there was also brown noise and pink noise, and I got so confused. I'm like, why can't we just keep things simple? So then I switched to listening to storytelling. There was a great 1984 George Orwell narration on YouTube I would put on to help me sleep. And a few years later, audiobooks and podcasts became a thing. So that was the best way for me to fall asleep. Maybe also for some of you. If you're sleeping now, remember, when you wake up, go and rate Yet Another Expat on Spotify on 5 stars and then share it to your friends. That's right. Now sleep. But yes, babies are wild. They like being moved around. They're used to being the belly. So if you're moving around, they get calm. And I move him around in the house. I like kneeling and going down for him to smell different flowers we have. He gets quite interested in that. And it's a pure joy to see him experience a little bit. Because small babies, they just eat, sleep, cry, and poop. You don't see a lot of them being. They don't do a lot of being at this age that I'm talking about. They barely exist, and I think that the tiredness of existing is so much that they don't bother with too much. But smelling flowers is one of these things. The baby hands, they are wild. They move all the time. I said this in the previous episode, but they are not coordinated with the brain. They just do their own thing. It feels like each limb has a brain of its own. So he's like some alien octopus where his head is trying to relax. His hands are exploring his head. He's almost poking his own eye out. I'm concerned. I'm a concerned father. He's getting better and better and stronger. I can hold him in all the different ways. I cannot throw him in the air yet. He will still break. Things are getting stronger. And we're good. We're good. You know, he also cries in his sleep sometimes. So at least we have some things in common. Maybe it's because he was born during Trump's inauguration date. I'm not sure. But I'm trying my best. We're trying our best. We're putting classical music for brain development. I want to do all these hacks, you know? I want to have brain development, classical music playing day and night, and I will come to report back in 18 years. We don't have a control subject though, so it would be great if we had twins. Then we could do some proper A/B testing. Just put one child on listening to classical brain development music, maybe triplets. Have the other one listen to hardcore metal songs. Because when they did it with plants, the plants also like metal. And then have a third one that just sits in silence. That's my baby life. I'm changing a lot of diapers. I'm doing great. I'm making a lot of postpartum food for my partner. This includes things like ginger and red dates and goji berries and special broths, and we're doing the whole thing. Some of these broths need to simmer forever. You're making this stew and it goes on for hours and hours and hours and hours. And this reminded me, did you know there was a concept of the forever stew back in the Middle Ages? Like literally, there would be a pot when you imagine an inn where people go to have a beer and stay for the night as they go on to their adventures, if you have played any sort of games or imagine of Lord of the Rings or whatever, in these places there would always be a stew that you can have, a soup with a broth, maybe some vegetables. Now, apparently it was a very common practice that stew stayed forever on the fire, and they would just keep adding things inside. That was it. It's not that the stew finished and then they washed the pots and then they started the next day. No, no, no. This is a 24/7 business. People can come anytime to spend the night or to have a drink. The stew was on all the time, and you just threw new stuff in it. And I mean, everyone had worms and diarrhea anyways at that time, so I guess it was part of the norm. There is also an urban legend for one stew in France that was continuously on fire for, I don't know, 100 years or something. But you need to look that up yourselves. But forever stews are a thing, not our stew. This sums up my baby chapter, and I'll move on to the rest of the world where all glimpses of hope need to be hooked and pulled from the deep ends to try and bring some sunlight in all the cloudness. It almost feels like when they discovered the dark oxygen at the bottom of the sea. I know I'm throwing things around now, but there is these small rocks. I've made an episode about them, deep sea oxygen and mining. But there is oxygen hiding in some little stones at the bottom of the seafloor, and this has been an insane discovery. But it almost feels like we need to go all the way down there to grab a little bit of oxygen with all the wild things that are unfolding in the world. Not just Germany, not just Greece, not just the US. It's just like a whole planet. The heartbeat, the pulse of the planet is definitely on the roll. The planet has heartburn, and we are trying to not have a panic attack as an entire humanity. This is how it feels like. Okay, let's unwrap a few things there. I'll start with OpenAI and DeepSeek. You probably have heard of that. If you haven't, basically DeepSeek is a new AI model that was released by China, and it costed 6 million to make. OpenAI costed billions and billions, and DeepSeek seems to perform just as good, if not even better, than OpenAI. They basically showed that China can do AI as well as the US at a fraction of a cost. And they released that AI model, and in 2 days, the entire world got to play with it and to compare it with OpenAI and all of that. Now, the interesting parts in this whole debate for me are the following. Trump has been threatening left and right, imposing tariffs to everyone. Like this single type of measure is going to fix things. He is imposing tariffs, and the others are imposing tariffs. This is not the way to do negotiations, but anyway, tit for tat, it's how it is. And he has threatened again and again to put tariffs on China. Now, for me, I see this as a very strong move from China's side. The US has been trying for years and years to cut the technological advancement of China. They've tried to do that by restricting access to chips and chip making technologies, because everything is chipped these days. If you look around you, from your headphones to a camera to your fridge to a car to, I don't even know, every single thing has chips. And whoever can make the most advanced chips is going to be leading in terms of technology and industrial stuff, in terms of army, the drones, the rockets, the missiles. Everything is using these advanced chips. And the US has been trying to stop China for accessing those. There were some stuff with Taiwan, where the US has been making chips there. There's been leaked stuff that China tries to get the knowledge. So there's this whole debate going on of blocking the technology. But now basically China is showing that, hey, listen, your blocking is not really working. Here's an AI model, which is as good as your best model, the ChatGPT one, at a fraction of the cost. They released it to the whole world, and DeepSeek is open source. What open source mean is basically that anyone can do anything with the code. Anyone can see the code of how it works. So you can take it and do your own thing with it. OpenAI and ChatGPT is a closed system. You don't know how exactly they've put it together. You don't know how exactly it works. You can use it. The developers can use it to make their own apps and applications, so they can use it in this way, but they cannot look under the hood. OpenAI has not open sourced their model, which is type of the irony, right? The ones called OpenAI, with ChatGPT OpenAI, have not been open source at all. They've been hiding everything behind closed doors. And DeepSeek, that seems much more secretive as a name, is open source. But what this did was in one day, it wiped $1 trillion out of the US stock market. The stocks of NVIDIA, who's making all the chipsets that all the AI companies are using, Microsoft, the big tech companies, they all went down. Microsoft is investing in OpenAI. Now, what I think of this is I think China played a card here. China played the card to Trump that if you want to impose more tariffs, we will keep finding ways. There's a lot of talk that the US trying to block China for having advanced technology is what might have pushed innovation to such an extent that they're able to do more with less. Because this new model that surpasses ChatGPT, they said, we trained it with lower technology graphic cards. We didn't use the top tech to do it. They got very creative and innovative in how to train it using far, far, far less resources and far less advanced technology. And that puts the whole AI story in a bit of a question because so far the AI concept, and this is why it's OpenAI that does it, it's Meta, the company that owns Facebook, it's Google that has the Gemini, it's all of these massive companies because up until this point, to make an AI model, you needed trillions of data. You needed billions of processing power of data centers. It was all about quantity. So the bigger the dataset you can train, the bigger the infrastructure you have, the better model you can create. This was the debate. And this is why all these companies and OpenAI was telling to smaller companies, don't bother trying. You will never get all the resources, all the infrastructure that you need to create a model because it's way too much and only the big players could play with this. With Elon Musk buying thousands of NVIDIA chipsets to make his own AI stuff, with Meta, Google, OpenAI, only the big players could play because it's such an expensive sport. But now China said, well, that's actually not true. And it's really causing a huge blow on the superiority of the AI space. And the US is admitting that, okay, we are not as far ahead as we thought. So quite an interesting move there. I think it's part of a deeper dialogue that is happening around negotiations on tariffs and this trade war that is going between countries. And basically, China showed we can hurt you to the US. Here's your pristine, here's your top crown jewel, the AI. Look, we can make the same, even better. We can make it extremely cheap. And not only that, we will give it to everyone in the world, open source, so they can also do it. Quite a big blow. I do think it's part of some negotiation that is happening. So let's see how that goes. Already, Sam Altman from OpenAI says that they probably had it wrong and they need to open source their model as well. And open source is a great thing because when something is open, when everyone can see the code, everyone can check on it, everyone can improve it. Technology moves faster when it's open source because everyone can contribute and fix a little bit thing here, fix a tiny bit there, and technology moves faster. Now, of course, this didn't go so calmly. The first 2 days of DeepSeek being out, it was attacked. They took it had to stay offline for some hours and not take new users because there was a coordinated attack to try and take the servers down. I wonder who could have done that to stop the rival from becoming the number one downloaded app. Then OpenAI also are saying that the DeepSeek model has used a lot of its work. They were saying that they used ChatGPT to train DeepSeek. So basically they used work that ChatGPT and OpenAI had already done in training their model and making it so good. And then China and DeepSeek used that work to make their own AI better. This is the distillment method, where basically you use an already trained AI and distill the good answers into training another model with far less need for resources. You don't need to get too technical, but it's a little bit of an irony that OpenAI is complaining because OpenAI was the one that copied the entire internet into ChatGPT. ChatGPT has been trained based on everything that has ever existed online. Is anything you wrote in a forum back in the day, your blog post, the entire Wikipedia, like everything that existed, OpenAI just scraped it. And that includes work of researchers, that includes work that is licensed of people that do this for a living. It includes, I don't know, opinion pieces, journalism. They never paid a dime to anyone for capturing all the written knowledge on the web and putting it into a ChatGPT. Nevertheless, they are now very, very sad and angry that the DeepSeek people used their own model without permission to create an AI, which is exactly what they did to us as humans to create ChatGPT. So this is what's happening. China has done a lot of things that we shouldn't be proud of, but in this move, I actually find it a quite cool one. They're giving AI to everyone in the world, democratizing it, not for the end users, not for us that we go and type in the same question to 3 different AIs, but for the people who can actually build with this technology, and it's not behind closed gates and month licenses to even get to use some of it. I'll slowly close it off now with a few tiny things around the world. One is that in Germany, headlines made the news about Dubai chocolate. It has been a sensation, not just in Germany, but in a lot of countries. And apparently, it has been such a sensation that a lot of companies started producing Dubai chocolate of their own. But there's a tiny problem. It's not made in Dubai. There are some in Turkey that are making the same type of chocolate with the liquid pistachio baklava situation in the middle, and then they're selling it as Dubai chocolate. I found one €8 chocolate in my local Spete here, the kiosk, and even before reading the article, I was curious. I turned it around. It was made in Turkey, and I thought, okay, can they call it Dubai chocolate if they're doing that? Apparently, the German court says yes, they can. The main importer of Dubai chocolate in Germany, that is bringing it from, you guess it, Dubai, went to court and said, hey, all this chocolate coming in, it's called Dubai chocolate, but it's not from Dubai. I have the original one. Everyone needs to keep giving me their money and not to other people. But the court eventually decided that it doesn't have to come from Dubai to be called the Dubai chocolate. It just have to feel the standards of this pistachio feeling and the consistency and all of that. But if you like finding things around, you might be surprised by this next headline where someone from Denmark found a 66 million year old animal vomit. Yeah, it's actual. They found animal vomit in Denmark. And I read the article. Apparently, there's some sort of half-eaten flowers vomit that has been turned into a fossil. And some wild jack guy just saw that on a beach in some cliffs on southern Denmark and thought, this looks like something. And he carried that to have it examined. And it actually turns out that it was a fossil of animal vomit. He said he noticed a strange small cluster of lily pieces in a piece of chalk, and then he got that and he brought it to a museum to be cleaned and examined. And this guy, Peter Benek, an amateur fossil hunter, he was right. He found 66 million year old vomit. It's parts of a lily, the indigestible parts of the lily that were vomited by an animal that ate the plants. And it actually is a cool discovery. It is. It provides important knowledge on the relationship between predators and prey and the food chains all that time ago. So if you have things not going for you, I've saw people that found ancient swords or ancient coins, or you can go over all kinds of things, but you should never stop believing. This is what this piece is teaching me. If you believe it strong enough, keep going at it, and who knows, maybe where others see shit, you see gold, and then you make the CNN headlines. Now, I'll close it up with this final thought. I have Instagram, so I'm being forced to check Threads, this new thing that wants to compete with Twitter or X or I don't know what. And it's a bit weird because all these billionaires are now all sucking on Trump's little toes around him like little children, and he's feeding them with access to legislation and money and conveniences and all of that nice synergy of the capital the money, the monopoly, the oligarchs, and the power. They will get to do great things, I am sure, but they're all in it together. But still, it seems that they have their own rivalries. And I've noticed that in Threads, that is from Meta, that is Facebook, that is Zuckerberg, there is so much content that's shitting on Musk, on Elon Musk, and on Twitter. And I don't think it's by chance. I actually think that the more you are on Threads, the more anti-Musk stuff you get to see and experience. Somehow the algorithm is giving that a push, entertaining how Musk and Zuck are shitting on each other in their own platforms by slowly tweaking the algorithm to serve news that are dissing each other off. And Zuckerberg has a lot of reasons to be annoyed because everything he says in the all hands meetings on Facebook gets leaked to the press right away. He made an all hands where he said that it's a good opportunity to be so close to the government and that they're going to take it and everyone needs to buckle up. And someone leaked that to the press and then he got very annoyed at that. So he actually released another memo that said that everyone who is making leaks is going to be taking very seriously and that there will be measures for it. And then that note also got leaked. So now we know not only for the first meeting, but also on the afterwards warnings. I think with 70,000 people, it won't be very easy not to. And as we speak, we have a fourth crazy AI model coming from Alibaba. If you remember that website, it used to be Amazon before Amazon. It used to be Temu before Temu. I think it still exists now, but yeah, there was a whole story about the owner. He said some things about China that China didn't like, and then Alibaba and AliExpress just disappeared. Then long time after, he made a comeback, much more calm. But basically, he's one of the billionaires on the China side, and now he is releasing an AI model that apparently surpasses all the others. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know which AI is going to substitute me, my work, my son, my children. It will be one of them. They can keep on fighting, and hopefully when one wins, there will still be some jobs for us. You know my bet. We will go back into doing agriculture and pottery, clay making, and I don't know, improv theater and all of these great things. And the machines will work for us and everything will be great. And we will be able to worry only about matters of the philosophical mind, like why would you name your repair shop next phone? You should name it this phone. I'm saving your phone. Your phone matters. But now it's time for an ending. I was Hermes. Thanks for listening. If you like this podcast, go and review it on Spotify. Give it some more stars. Let's get it more starry. So this is your job. My job is to find time and record. We're all doing great. You're doing great. Keep on doing what you're doing. And I'll see you next week. Until then, ciao.